Hi, welcome to Craft It Sweetly. I'm Diana. Thanks so much for being here. With this video, I want to show you 3 different paperweights and what the results are with each one. I have in front of me 3 different, the same pattern, same size book, 3 different weights of paper. So let me pick up this one first here. This is the one that I currently use as far as paper. This is the pattern that I'm doing. It's the Wolf. It's 8.228 inches, which I believe was like 20.9 centimeters, and 240 pages for the book. I created the pattern using photobookart.com. You can now subscribe monthly and create as many patterns as you would like. Or if you haven't tried one before, you can just do a single pattern and see if you like it. But with $4.99, you can subscribe for the month and create as many patterns as you would like. I created the same pattern for every book. The only difference with these is the weight of the paper. I use an HP printer and I subscribe to the ink. I'll link below in the description box the printer that I use and then the paper, which is the 28-pound paper that I've been using. I have used the 32-pound paper, which is my last one here. This one's the 32-pound paper. And then the 24-pound is the one that I want to try out and see how it works out. I kind of remember doing one book that was 24-pound paper, and I'll translate the GSMs for each of these. I don't remember off the top of my head what the GSM is for each of these papers. In the US, we do the 28, the 24, 32 in pound as far as the weight of the paper. But I'll translate these into GSMs, and I'll link in the description box below the equivalent of each of these weights so that you can see. Now, as far as the paper itself, for the 24-pound and the 28-pound paper, I am using HP paper. So HP printer, HP paper. I was told that if you use the same kind of paper and the genuine ink, they kind of understand each other. So you have, the paper takes the ink differently than if you're using a different brand. Now for the 32-pound, I already had this, so I didn't want to get another whole 500 pages just because I don't use it very often. This one is a Hammermill paper. It's a premium paper, but it's 32-pound weight, so it's much heavier. Even by feel, you can tell. I didn't print out the cover page for all 3. It's the same thing, but I just wanted to show you what it looks like, you know, what the design will be. So the book is all the same. I mean, the books are all the same. It's just the weight of the paper that I'm changing with each book. So we'll see once I craft all these what the books will look like. Kind of like when I did that comparison with whether you wanted to use a bone folder or create make the strips just by folding them with your fingers, just a gentle press. So if you're new to my channel, this is kind of the process that I go through with my pages. I use a Caterpillar crop to cut the pages. I love this I love this paper trimmer because it has a light right there. So it makes it easy for me to know exactly where I'm cutting when I place this down because I can see through it. So and I cut these off. I'll take the side off. I pretty much go all the way around and take everything off now. If you're new, I would recommend writing these numbers just above the bottom line here on the side so that you don't lose track of them. You know, like do 135 and then write it right above. That's going to be in the book and you won't see it. But that way, if you scramble them, you know kind of what the order is. At this point, I'm not doing that anymore. I've kind of cut them all and make sure they stay together, and I don't have any issues with scrambling them. I used to be very paranoid about scrambling them. But let's see, edges are gone, so now I'm just gonna trim this going back and forth. And I trim the whole page, and usually I'll trim, I was trimming like the entire pack of paper, and I may do that depending on how many pages. But you can do a couple pages, put them on the book, and then go back and do this, and then trim a couple, apply a couple more pages of strips. It's up to you which you're doing, what, if it's more assembly line or, applying as you go. Okay, so I've cut all my strips for page number 1. And this is the 28-pound paper. So what I'm going to do is I'll mark in the book here just so that I can keep track of which books I'm doing. So I'll just put in, actually let me put it slightly further in because the strip will go right there. The strip will go there. So 28 pound for this one, and it's in pencil. So I marked this page so I know what book I'm applying that to. But this is the 28-pound paper. Let me get this out of the way, and then I'll apply this. And then what I'll do is I'm going to finish the book with the 28-pound paper and show it to you, and kind of go through each book without covering, the application of the strips. I have a ton of videos on the process of applying the strips to the pages. This one's more meant for just comparing the various strips. So usually what I'll do is I'll take 3 or 4 strips, and if you need to score them, I will score them before you cut them into strips. And I do have a video on how to score the strips using the Caterpillar crease. It's an excellent scoring tool. You can use that if you have a hard time folding these in half. Right now I don't do that anymore. I just fold these kind of a gentle fold as I've shown you before, and then give it a little more, and then I'm separating these. So this is the first strip, second, third, and fourth. So I have 4 strips here, and at this point you can use a bone folder or you can just press them gently with your fingers. For purposes of keeping this consistent, I will do all 3 books just pressing these with my fingers. So I won't vary that at all. I'm not going to do one with a bone folder and one with pressing with my fingers. I'll keep this consistent. So I'm going to do it the same exact way for the other books. So let me move this off to the side so I can open my book. And I use double-sided tape, which this is a new one, so it takes a second for it to start. I use this kind of double-sided tape. What I like about these is that these open up and you can replace just the inside. You don't have to throw out the whole casing. You just get a refill, a pack of refills, and then you're good to go. And when you apply the strips, make sure this is flush with the top. If you want to make these invisible tops, I have a video on that as well. I'm not gonna do it for this one. Again, this video is just to see the result for the weight of the paper versus, the invisible top. I'm not so concerned about that for this project. And I just kind of hold it with my finger for the first few, or as I'm working for a couple pages, and then I put it underneath the support right there. And that holds it in place. So I have one more strip, I'll just do that. I've had questions about why am I not doing tape on the back side of it. I find that the strips stay fine just by I use the permanent glue runner, and just doing the top and the bottom works just fine for me. I don't need to do the back side of it. I'm not wasting tape. If I find one page that's kind of stubborn, that wants to keep kind of tucking underneath, I will do a little bit of it, but 99% of the time I'm using just the front. I'm doing tape at the top and at the bottom. Okay, so I've done just 4 strips on the book here. This is the 28-pound book, 28-pound paper. So I'll continue with this design, and then once I'm finished with the book, I'll show you what it looks like, and then I'll move on to the next weight of paper. So I got my strips here that I've started, and I'll carry on with the design. I started applying the strips because I've cut, this is the 28-pound paper, and then I made myself a note here for the 24-pound paper. And as I was cutting this is much thinner. It feels much thinner to work with. I found the 28-pound paper a little easier to fold and stay put, but the 24-pound paper is not as bad either. And I just fold them, and you know, with the 24-pound paper I can take more strips than with the 28 and then with the 32, because it's easier to fold in the sense of having more of them. So I guess the 24-pound paper, it goes faster because I can take a whole bunch of them and fold them at the same time in half, and then go back and kind of do the additional crease that I do like this, where I'm using my fingers. See if you can see in the camera view where I'm just pressing down this way. So let me not get these scrambled. But I'm just pressing down. So because it's a thinner paper, the book will be thinner as well, which works fine if you're looking, you know, if depending on what the image is. So I know sometimes people will ask, what paper weight should I use, or how many pages should the book be? There are so many factors involved in how many pages a book should be for your image. The thickness of the page itself is going to be a factor. The paper is going to be a factor. The size of the image, whether it's horizontal or more vertical. So it's a hard question to answer just because there are so many variables. But once you do a lot of these, you'll kind of get a sense of what works. And it also, you know, depends, like I said, on what paper you're using. This is a 28-pound, I mean, this is the 32-pound paper, and it's definitely much heavier. So this I wouldn't do more than, you know, 2 at a time as far as folding them like I did previously. And because I can definitely tell that the weight is heavier. And the 32-pound I would probably reserve for books that have a thinner page maybe. So you end up with kind of the same thickness. And I wanted to show you, like, I've done some of the pages for each of the weights on the book, on each book, because I wanted to see, you know, kind of the progress of, instead of finishing one book completely and then doing the next book, I wanted to kind of see how things are going. So I've been switching back and forth between the various weights and the various books. I've probably done 3/4 of the one that's 28 pounds. So this is the 32. Let me move this out of the way, and I'll bring up my books that I have finished so far. So this looks a lot wider, you know, more open. This is the 28 pounds, so I guess I should put them in the order that they are as far as weight. But the reason this is so much more open is because I've done most of the pages for this. I only have a little bit left for that book. As I'm looking at these books, it's harder to press this closed because of the weight. This is so much easier. This is the 24-pound paper, and it's super easy to get it, you know, to compress it if you need to. And you can open it up a little more if you have to, based on your image. But I want to show you kind of what it looks like from the side as well. So this is the 24-pound. Let me see if I can prop it up here. There we go. So that's the 24-pound. Then this is the 28 pound. Like I said, I've done a good portion of this one, so it's coming out really nice. Now, as I'm working on this, I've only done, I think, 2 pages of this, two sets of strips. And this will definitely be much more open because the paper weight is thicker. Now, the other thing that I want to note in this is that because this page, so this page here, when you fold it, it's even more pressed together because it's a thinner piece of paper. So the lines will look a lot thinner and not as noticeable, which I love that part of it. Like I said, this I found a little easier to fold than the 24 pound. I mean, not by much, but just a little easier. And I think it may be just because I've been using the 28 pound paper for so long. But I don't know if you can tell on camera. Let me see if I can, whoops. Okay, so let me see if I can zoom in here so you can see the strips. So this, okay, I keep knocking things over here. So this book does not want to stay up. Okay, so this, the lines are very fine. These, the lines get thicker, so they're more noticeable. And then they're gonna be even thicker with the 32 pound paper. You can really see the definition of the strips. Here, they're not as noticeable. It does almost look like it's painted on the edge. Okay, so at this point, I will go back and finish all 3 books, and then I'll be back to show you the finished designs for each one and how they stand as far as the aperture, the opening, you know, for each one. So I'll be back once I'm done. Now that I've completed the books, I wanted to show you what the books look like with the different weights of paper. So this was the design that I made for each of them. And you can see, looking at the top, that very clearly this is the lightest weight, the medium weight, and then the heavier weight. So what I decided to do was use, or what I'm comparing is the 24 pound paper, which is 90 GSM, 28 pound paper, which is 105 GSM, and then 32 pound paper, which is 120 GSM. So these are the 3 comparisons I did. I did not do the 80 GSMs, which is like a 22 pound paper. I wanted to compare these. This is the one that I've been using for a long time. I'll still probably use this occasionally. I did use this for one project, and I did think it was a little too heavy. And I do like this. The only downside for me, and again, it really depends on your preferences once you do these books and see what works for you, is that I found this just a little, obviously it's lighter paper, so it felt a little flimsier to fold and more prone to getting waves in it when you're folding it versus these, which are heavier. Not too bad. So I'll probably switch to this 24 pound / 90 GSM paper for future projects, and then once in a while maybe use this one. So that's kind of my plan for books. But then to show you the front of it for comparison, is this is the lightest one. So what I like about this is that the lines are super fine, so you don't notice them as much. Because the paper is lighter, you end up with a narrower part of the paper that you see. Okay, so let me see if I can hold this so that you can see the comparison at the same time. I don't know that I can prop it. Let me see if I can prop it with something. Here, we'll use my art glitter glue as a bottle holder here. Let's make sure it stays up. Then probably won't. And then, whoops, this is the next one. So it's wider, obviously. And then the width of the strip that you see is wider as well. So I'll try and zoom in post-edit here, since I don't have another hand to zoom in for the video. But finer lines for the design, slightly thicker, and I'm gonna get this one into the picture now, even thicker with the 32 pound. So the way you would, now you can see that the image is stretched out more. You could always use ribbon to tighten this a little more for the design. Obviously, I would stabilize all of these books on the bottom, and I have a video showing you how to do that. But you can achieve that same perspective for the image just by squeezing this a little more. So it doesn't mean that you can't use this paper, the 28-pound paper, and get this look for the image. Whoops, I just made it buckle because I don't have these stabilized yet. But and I think they nested within each other here. So so you can get the perspective, you know, by stabilizing it to this thickness and then adding a stabilizer at the bottom or tying it with a ribbon or something. But the lines are more pronounced in this paper. Now, doesn't mean that using this paper, you know, there aren't ways to adjust it. So you could use a bone folder and make the strip more tighter, I guess I should say, prior to applying it, or even after. You could do that using a bone folder, and then this is going to be tighter. I have a video showing you adding strips with paper that has been folded just using your fingers or pressing them with a bone folder. Much tighter for that design. So it doesn't mean you can't use it. So as you can tell, there are so many variables involved in creating a design that, you know, when someone asks what paper should I use, there are a lot of variables as far as your preference for one, the thickness of the pages, the design itself, how you're pressing the strips, you know, so all those things play a factor in your final product. So someone saying just use this paper and everything works fine, that's not necessarily the case. If you're using a bone folder, your page is going to be much tighter. If you're pressing a finger, it's going to be much wider. So lots of variables, and a lot of it is just trial and error. Try this paper, see what works best for you. These are all the same size books, same number of pages, the same exact 3 copies of the same book. So that's why I wanted to make sure. The only variable that changed with this was the type of paper that I was using. All of them were finger folded versus pressing with a bone folder. So hope this video helped kind of clarify a little bit about the weight of the paper, which one you should use, which is probably not, you know, I guess it didn't necessarily give you a definite answer that, you know, this is the paper you must always use. But hopefully it answered some questions and showed you differences and clarified some things that maybe, you know, you don't want to try all 3 papers, but you maybe are steering towards using this one. But again, hopefully this video was helpful to just shed a little more insight into the different weights of paper. If you have any questions, comment below. You're welcome to post your projects in my Facebook group. I would love to see what you create, and you're welcome to post what weight paper is your favorite, whether it's here in this video or in my Facebook group, showing what your preference weight paper is or what you always use, you know, for your projects. So again, probably this one, the 24-pound, is what I'm gonna be going with going forward. My favorite thing about this is that the lines are much finer, so it's not as defined as these here, the lines from the page. But yeah, any questions, comment below as usual. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next project. And be sure to subscribe to my channel to get notifications of upcoming videos. Thanks so much. See you next time.